Hello everyone and welcome to this video on array lists. So when I'm describing array lists, I am going to be making some comparisons to arrays to show the difference between the two of them. So hopefully you've had the opportunity to review the array material and have an idea of what a linear static data structure is like. So there's some key differences between arrays and array lists, and we're going to get into those. But first, I'm going to do a general description of array lists. So an array list is a list. Similar to an array, it can have multiple items and we can navigate through those items. One of the differences in an array list is that those items aren't necessarily stored in one single block of memory. And what that means is that even though they're affiliated with each other and we can easily find things, it means that we can add elements, we can remove elements. We could remove that element, we can swap in elements, we can do all sorts of flexible things like that we wouldn't necessarily be able to do with an array. So what we are going to be doing is looking a little bit at how that works. So when we're looking at an array list, we're still looking at indices of offset from the beginning of the array list. So we know that this will be the element at index 0, index 1, and index 2. We're still going to find that the size or length of the array is equal to the number of elements. So in this case, if we do an array list declaration, we can use a dot size function and it will give us a size of 3. So our last index is still 1 less than our size. That still works in the same way. Lots of ways that we declare and or access information in an array list is going to be different, however. So in order to declare an array list, we're going to go ahead and use ArrayList. And then we're going to declare what type of data is stored in the array list. So it might be a string. It might be another object. It could be another object. It cannot be a primitive data type. So you can't store ints or doubles or chars or floats or any of the primitive data types unless you use what's called a wrapper class, and we'll look at that later. So for now, we know that we have an array list. This is declaring it, so a string array list. In order to initialize this array list, similar to when we initialized an array, we are going to have to say the name of the list equals that new keyword we use to initialize things, array list, string, and then we're going to use rounded brackets. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a pointer to an array list. Now that array list has no elements in it right now, and that's fine. So with arrays, we had to say when we initialized it, how many elements it would have. With an array list, we don't have to do that because we can go ahead and add elements to it and it will grow and shrink to size. So if we want to add an element to an array list, we can go ahead and say alist.add. And we can add an item, so we can add, it's a string array, so we can add hello. And what's going to happen now is in our array list that we had up here, we are now going to have hello added. And remember that these two don't yet exist. So we're going to go ahead and say, okay, we've added hello, and we can do set. So we can say, just go ahead and add those first 3 items. So here we have hello, welcome, and worlds, which we're going to see as hello, welcome, and world. And that's what ArrayList looks like right now. We've added 3 elements to it. Now, another function that we can use is .set. So we can say ArrayList .set at index, give it an integer. So in this case, I want to say at index 1. And I'm going to say, put in a string here that I want to change it to. So in this case, the element at index 1 is welcome. And we're going to go ahead and change it to goodbye. And what that's going to do is it's going to go into this array, or this element in the array list, and it's going to go ahead and change that to goodbye. So it's setting the value, so the element at index 1 to the string goodbye. Another function that we see quite often with array lists is going to be get. So we can go ArrayList.get, and we can just pass it an index. So if we said ArrayList.get1, it's going to return goodbye now, because that's what we've set it to. If we wanted to print out the element at index 1, we could do our system.out.print ArrayList.get, and then the index we want to get. So we have .add, .set, .get, and one of the other ones that we use all the time is .size. So ArrayList.size, also a function, so it has the rounded brackets. And this, in this case, is going to return 3, because ArrayList.size is going to give us the total number of elements that we see. So 1, 2, 3. And you'll notice that similar to an array, because we start indexing at 0, size is always going to be strictly greater than the last index, because the last index is equal to size minus 1. And those are kind of the main functions that you're going to use with an array list to get started, is your creating a new array list, .add, .set, .get, and .size. So those ones you'll see all the time when you're working with array lists, and that's going to give you kind of the basic functionality that you need to access data in an array list.